Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar discussion video. In this one I want to discuss basically the release format that Netflix has for their shows and what I think basically know is going to be the way Netflix Avatar will be released. So as you can see here, it's coming out February 22nd, so we're in 2024 now, we're not too far away. I'm assuming the trailer is probably going to be coming at some point within the next 2-3 weeks, and once we have the trailer, we're right there. But I haven't really seen too many people talk about sort of when it hits February 22nd, like that experience in a way that we're going to have actually watching the show. And based on the way Netflix most of the time do it, and I assume it's the way it will be done here because I haven't heard anything else, Netflix are just going to drop the entire season, all 8 episodes of season 1, all at once on February 22nd. And what that does, obviously, is, as usual with Netflix shows, it does create a bit of a rush that you have to kind of binge watch the entire thing immediately to avoid spoilers if you want to participate in any sort of discussion. So it creates a bit of a rushed situation if you are like involved in fandom discussion, like I assume most people kind of following the channel who are also interested in Netflix Avatar are interested in, seeing a discussion around the show. But it's going to be a little bit complicated and kind of chaotic, I suppose, having to deal with the idea that, there's going to be 8 full episodes of this show out immediately. And in most cases, I think most people are going to realize that, I kind of just have to watch it first because you're going to get spoiled somewhere if you try and get involved in discussions before you've finished your watch through. That's just the kind of way these things are. I know it because some of the other shows I've covered on the channel before, Voltron and the Dragon Prince are Netflix shows, but animated Netflix shows. So even though I think Voltron had slightly longer seasons, it's still nowhere near as much content as is potentially going to be the case with Netflix Avatar. This is 8-hour-long episodes. So if that's completely true, that's somewhere in the region of 8 hours of content. That's a lot to kind of get through in one go, and for me also have to try and make videos on and see how that all works. But that's kind of the discussion that I want to have here. So immediately I'll open up in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. What experience do you want from the show in terms of when you actually go to watch it, what type of discussions you're kind of hoping to have and stuff like that. But also, just what your thoughts are about, would you prefer the show if it actually did a weekly release of episodes? Do you like that they're going to be dropping the entire season all in one go? Or would you like some sort of a different kind of release cadence? Because I do feel, based on my experience with Voltron and the Dragon Prince, it creates in my mind a little bit too much of a rushed fandom experience. And so I know Dragon Prince is not a huge focus on my channel, just because I'm Avatar focused, and so I only do somewhat minimal content about the Dragon Prince. But even so, it does create a very chaotic situation on that kind of launch day for a new season, where there's 9 episodes in a new season of Dragon Prince, and it does just feel like the first couple of episodes, even some of the middle episodes, just get forgotten, and it really is just all about the end, as if it doesn't really matter that individual episodes were released. It's just a giant chunk of content was released all at once, and the discussions can be just a little bit all over the place, and it does feel like the main discussion points end up being stuff from kind of later in the season more so than anything. This show obviously is going to have a slightly different situation because it's an adaptation, where there'll be some spoilers just to see how they do things differently, but the core major plot beats we do expect to be mostly the same. And I suppose it's more going to be just a sense of, say, characters that they don't reveal ahead of time, what exactly they look like, where they appear. There'll be that sort of spoilers about what way are they maneuvering things around. But the main things of just oh my god, the finale's in the Northern Water Tribe. We expect that to be the case. A lot of those key elements will be in exactly the same spots as we expect them to be. So that's not there. But I do think with this show, given how long we've all waited for it, we are kind of looking to have that discussion and kind of go through it and see like, okay, here's how they did the opening couple of episodes. That's interesting. Getting used to the adaptation. But instead, it is just going to be this like, and we can't really have that discussion yet. I have to watch the next episode so I don't get spoiled. My own thoughts are basically that I obviously, as a someone who runs an Avatar YouTube channel, I value fan discussion quite highly. I like taking the time to go through stuff. Especially, I think my channel, even compared to other Avatar channels out there, is particularly discussion focused. So I very much value that kind of fan experience, and that, you know, when a show is airing and those, the time between episodes, that sort of thing. In this case, it's kind of just like it's a general launch window of like the first day, the first week and a bit or whatever, where there's like massive hype behind the show. And that, I think, does create a bit of a different situation. So I do view it as I'm going into this, like it feels like it's going to be a bit of a daunting prospect of how slow a lot of the information has been so far about, like, you know, gradually getting these screenshots, gradually getting this teaser trailer. We're waiting for the full trailer, and it's cool, but it has been super scattered out across like many, many months. And so the idea that we're going to jump straight from that into, and now here's 8 hours of content immediately, is like, whoa, can we not slow it down a little bit? Because, so overall, in terms of the general formats that are done, I probably prefer weekly over binge. I think that I think I would definitely say that, especially for fandom focused stuff, where I think, you know, there's going to be a fan base and fandom discussion. But I would also be an advocate for like other types of kind of release formats of like a show like this, of like, what about 2 episodes a week for 4 weeks? That way you're not taking a really long time to do it, but you're at least giving time for specific sections of the show to breathe, giving people a chance to kind of spend some time to go through it. Each chunk is going to be rather large, in that it kind of in a way turns it into kind of 4 like movies effectively to make up the entire season. And it's compressed, but it's not like overly kind of compressed. Like, that's one way to do it. There's the, what if you just did like 4 episodes, week break 4 episodes, just kind of acknowledging that like 8 episodes all at once is kind of a lot. Anything to just give a little bit of a kind of breather where the fandom could just discuss some of it and then build up to the next bit of it. I think it is something that I definitely would like. That's kind of my thoughts. Like, I don't think it has to be 1 a week. Like, even like what a lot of shows maybe sometimes tend to do, where maybe they launch with 2 episodes, maybe they end with 2 episodes. So 8 episodes ends up being actually over the course of like 6 weeks. That's one way to do it as well. So I just kind of am more of a kind of sense of like, I don't think every show has to be one way or the other. It all has to be binge watch everything at once. Everything has to be weekly. I do think it depends on what it is. Like, new shows that you're maybe not overly confident about, sometimes you can maybe benefit from doing that kind of all at once release, so people get a proper sense of it. Stuff that you are more confident in and you know has a built-in fan base, you can do more of the spread out release, because you know that the fans will keep the interest going the kind of whole time through. And I think with that next Netflix Avatar, there's been enough hype behind it where you can absolutely justify the weekly release. But this is the way Netflix does it. Like, I accept that, like, that's just how Netflix is going to be doing it, that it's just going to be everything all at once. But I do worry just a little bit that it is going to create not maybe like an ideal kind of fandom discussion kind of experience, because you never know. Like, you just go online and are like, how far are you through the season? Can we actually talk about this yet? No. And then, like, especially for me with like videos, I'm kind of like, I have like 5 or 6 different kind of ideas for how exactly I should do videos covering this, because I think it's one of those things where like I have to put something out day 1, or I'm just kind of like missing out on this kind of mega opportunity to have a kind of a video that will do pretty well on the opening day. But it's like, am I even going to have the time to get through like 8 hours of content and then make a video and put it out on launch day? Because it's a lot to get through. And then how many videos should I be putting out early on? How stretched out should it be? That's a bit of a different situation, because I know how to do it for like a weekly show, because I did it for like Korra with the podcast and stuff like that. Lots of content when like Korra was airing. And it's very kind of easy because you can focus on just that bit of content and build up to the next one. With this, it's a bit different. So right now, I'm my general idea, I think, for my content, just kind of switching over to that for a little bit, is that I think I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 videos on the about kind of my initial watch through. I think the way I'm either going to do it is watch the first 4 episodes, do a video just talking about the first half of the season, then watch the second half of the season and do a video covering my thoughts on the second half as just complete initial reactions just after watching those groups of episodes. Maybe I might split that into sort of like a video with my initial reaction to just the first episode, and then like the next 3, or maybe the like 1, 4, 3, something like that. Depends how I suppose what way people want it. Maybe that's one of those things to maybe ask about and see how it exactly works. I'm thinking I'm going to have to do that. And then I think I've just accepted that in terms of a proper like in-depth breakdown that's going to be a little bit more like detailed, they are going to have to probably be individual episode reviews spread out over the next kind of couple of days, weeks following the release of this. Because the other point here is that Netflix Avatar is the only big Avatar thing happening in the first half of 2024. I did my 2024 preview video, so I've presented it all there. But there really is not much going on from basically February all the way up to July, when the first like comic comes out. You know, there's a little bit of stuff that comes out in around there, because there's that. We assume the Mako comic won't be too far after the Iroh and June comic. The Roku novel won't be too far after that. But there is this pretty big gap from February to July that I kind of feel like, well, I'm assuming there'll be some news about Netflix Avatar. They'll probably confirm Netflix Avatar season 2 and 3. Not that there'll be, I think, too much information necessarily on that. So I am thinking that I need to probably make sure that I have like probably at least a month or a month and a half's worth of content covering Netflix Avatar. Just because it is so much content, we've been waiting for it for so long. I want to actually do it properly and not just be like, oh, here's like 2 videos on it. It's all I could do in the time kind of required. And then I'm kind of thinking like, should I record like reaction videos, and how should I do that? It gets very complicated, where all of a sudden it's like I need to watch 8 episodes, but then also like there's theoretically like 10, 12 videos that I also kind of probably need to get working on, and that sort of stuff. Like that's just more of the kind of content creator kind of situation. But I think it's the same for just people who are just involved in the fandom and want to have that fandom experience and have that discussion. You know, they maybe are relying on the content creators that they follow to get the videos out, and content creators have their own schedules, and then, you know, everyone's struggling to do it, and it just creates a bit of a like chaotic situation. Whereas I think the weekly release is a little bit more structured, and it's easier to follow and keep track of. And I always do value the idea of, we discussed in depth episode 1. Now we can move on and we can discuss episode 2 on its own and in context with episode 1, and just keep going like that. Whereas I did definitely notice going through like Seasons of Voltron, Dragon Prince, that there would be times when like the events of, say, like episode 2 or 3 of a season would just be completely forgotten, because it's at that weird point where it's not the hype beginning of a season, it's not the hype end of a season, it's not a mid-season episode, it's just that one there in the middle of everything, and it just kind of gets a bit forgotten. Whereas I think the whole point for like a big in-depth discussion channel like mine is that I actually want to spend time and really give the show as much of a chance as possible to shine, and that means like not rushing out to kind of get everything out there. And so that's the challenge that I face, and I think a lot of people probably will soon realize that that's going to be a bit of a thing of just like, yeah, you wake up and it's exciting because the whole season is there, but it's like, oh yes, 8 episodes to get through, 8 hours of content, I can't really go online in this kind of time period. And then depending on how much time you have on February 22nd, like that might have to go into the next day, the next couple of days. And it just, you know, creates a situation where like people will miss out on discussions because of this. And then that's just my thing of just like, there are, in my opinion, probably more critiques just from that fandom perspective of the kind of binge watch format than there are of the kind of weekly release format. But I don't think it's going to change. And I do accept that. Like I'm prepared. That's why I'm thinking about it kind of well in advance, like what way I am going to do videos. And in a way, this video is just to kind of highlight that as well, because I think almost it's been forgotten maybe a little bit in amongst all of this. It's just like, oh yeah, we'll wait all this time and just 22nd, it'll all be there at once. So gonna wrap it up there before we start kind of repeating ourselves here. But like I said, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the whole, that prospect. All 8 episodes dropping at the same day. Do you like this? Are you worried about it? Which format do you think would give a better fandom experience with this? If you could choose the release kind of format yourself, what would you actually do to make it the most interesting one? Myself, because it's an adaptation thing and maybe there's not as much kind of super like hype maybe for like, you know, I need it to be super stretched out. The one that I maybe lean towards is like the 2 episodes a week kind of format. I kind of like that idea where it's a significant chunk of content, but we get through the season at a nice enough pace, but we take like an entire month and a bit to get through it. That's probably where my preference would be. But in terms of the normal formats, I guess I'd lean ultimately more towards the weekly format, just because it makes it easier to cover, because it's more scheduled and there is more room to breathe overall. So yeah, they're my thoughts. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.